Hey, everybody. It's Mother Theresa here. Guess what? It's time to grandstand. I hope everybody has grabbed their favorite beverage, their favorite snack, and you are ready to grandstand with me on tonight. Yes, indeed. I hope that you are ready to have some good, candid conversation. Why don't you go ahead and share this information with those that have not joined in with us on yet, as of yet, and let them know that it's time to grandstand. We're only going to be with you for just a few minutes on tonight. So let's go ahead and get started, everybody. All right. First of all, I hope everybody enjoyed this past Mother's Day weekend. And for those of you all that do not have your mothers with you, I hope you had some time to reflect on your mother and growing up, and hopefully the reflections and the memories were great. My mom should be joining us. Actually, she's already with us. Hey, Mom. So glad to have you. And again, happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone that's a mother that's on here. And for those that will be joining us in the replay, happy Mother's Day. I hope you had a great time with your family. And you all just bear with me. I'm trying to get my clothes together. You know, sometimes it's just always that one shoulder that just doesn't want to do right. But I'm trying to put it together. All right. So if you join me on Monday mornings when I do my Monday morning motivation, you know that I talked about from a great mess to greatness. And so we're going to dive into that conversation just a little bit more on today. So for those of you all that are coming in and you're like, who in the world is this lady? Where did she come from? What is she all about? Let me just introduce myself. My name is Mother Theresa. I like to say the other Mother Theresa from East Texas, Nacogdoches that is. And I stop by on Facebook, on YouTube every Tuesday evening at 7 o'clock for about 30 minutes just to grandstand, to just share some strategies, life strategies, some nuggets for you. And hopefully it is something that you could use. If not, pass it on to somebody else. So, from a great mess to greatness, turning your chaos into your calling, or turning it into something that is great. Now, a lot of times we may think about the things that have happened in our lives, some of the chaos, some of the stuff that have just knocked you to your knees. And sometimes we think that just because that we have experienced some things that have not been so good, the messes in our lives, sometimes we think that those things will disqualify us from the greatness, that's going to happen in your lives. But let me just tell you, it does not. And take it from a person who's had a lot of great messes in my life. And some may say, well, what are the messes that you've had? Well, some of them I have shared with you all on this platform, and others I have not. And then some of the things it's just not your business, okay? So, but just know that we are all humans, and we make mistakes. But when we make those mistakes, please do not allow those mistakes to get you distracted, or get you to not focus on what you know, or what I hope that you know may be the calling or the destiny that God has for you. And again, it's so easy for us to get distracted. It's so easy for us to throw in the towel. And a lot of times what I hear people say is that if I had just held out for just a little while longer. See, your breakthrough a lot of times is just right around the corner, but we give up too fast. We give up too fast. We get tired. We get despondent. We get to the point where we get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And we decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I do not want the struggle. I don't want the hassle. I don't want to deal with all the chaos. And so we give up. We just like, okay, I done that long enough. I've been trying to do this for a long time and I'm just tired of it. And so we throw in the towel. But what I will tell you is that a lot of times what is about to happen, the breakthrough that we've been seeking for, it's just right around the corner. You know, sometimes people can say, or will say that they can finally begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. And when they can finally see the light of the tunnel, a lot of times that gives them the gumption or the unction to keep going. Y'all, this, I know this is probably not bothering you all, but it's bothering me. I can see this shirt and it just keeps bothering me. But a lot of times when you're able to see the finish line, a lot of times that gives you the, that gives you the push to go ahead and keep going. And so, and when you can see the finish line, and especially if you've been in this thing for a long time, if you've been doing a thing for a really long time and you're beginning to see the finish line, that gives you to know, hey, I'm almost at the end. I'm almost where I can be done with it. And I can harvest the bounty that you've planted, so to speak. But let me just tell you, even when you cannot see the finish line, just know that there is a finish line. There will be an opportunity for you to finish that course, to finish the thing, that race that you're running, but you've got to stay in the race, okay? You've got to stay in the race, especially if you want to see the greatness, all right? And so one of the things that I want to say is that, sometimes when we're thinking about the challenges that we've had in our lives and the things that we have wanted to see come to pass, I was talking to a friend the other just today, and we were talking about, getting our finances in order as we are nearing retirement. And so, and one of the things that we were discussing is that, in our younger years, a lot of times we will, make lots of big purchases, and we make a lot of big purchases that take a little while to get them paid off. But as you begin to start looking at, how do I now, since I'm closer to retirement, how do I now start paying off some of these bills? My husband and I, we were definitely, in our younger years, we have created so many budgets and paid off so many different things. But we had to, first of all, decide that we wanted to pay off some things. We had to come up with the budget. And the thing about it is, we had to stick with that budget. It would not have made sense for us to create a budget and hope to pay off, maybe it's credit cards or whatever the bills may have been that we were, maybe have been a car, whatever. It would not have made sense for us to create the budget, come up with the plan, decide that we're going to pay these things off, and then not do anything about it. So we had to stick to that budget. We had to see that there was a plan that we had in place, and then we had to work towards it. Because sometimes, and just speaking from experiences, sometimes we can get ourselves in a big mess behind credit cards or just any financial things. Sometimes we can live beyond our means, or we can buy things that we don't necessarily need, and you can get yourselves in a financial bondage. But in order to get out of that, You all, you have to be strategic in your planning. So if you want to get to the greatness, if you want to get to the point where you say, hallelujah, I am done paying these bills. I am done with this. I have, paid this off. I've paid this car off. I've paid off these student loans. I've paid off whatever it is that you're trying to pay off. You've got to go through some things in order to get to the other side. So when we're talking about going from a great mess to greatness, it can be in a lot of different things. I used my example of, finances, but it could be a relationship. It could be in your career. It could be in a relationship, not just a romantic relationship, but it could be a relationship with a family member. It could be a relationship with a friend that you have, could have been a friend, and then something happened and it causes you all to kind of fall out with one another. But any of those things, you can take something and start it and at one point, and then you can work your way where it has maybe fallen apart and it's a mess right now, and you're trying to get it back to the point where it needs to be fixed. You can definitely have a great mess, and then you can work your way back to the greatness in that. And so, and another thing I wanted to share with you all, excuse me, there are a lot of different phases, and I'm going to share with you all. I've got to look at my notes. There are different phases when we're talking about a mess becoming greatness. First of all, when everything falls apart. Now, remember I said sometimes things have to fall apart. One of the things that I like to say is that sometimes things have to be shaken up in order to be straightened out. That's the thing that I love to say, because it is so true. Sometimes there are some great messes in our lives, and that mess is to the degree where it's got to be shaken up in order for it to get straightened out. So that is what we're going to call the breaking. The breaking point is when everything falls apart. And you all know in our lives, we've had many situations probably that different things have kind of fallen apart. And if you know that to be true, I don't see any hearts. I don't see any, yes, that's right, Mother Theresa. I don't see any of that going on in the chat. But please leave a comment if you know what I'm talking about. And maybe you're not like me. Maybe I'm just strange. Maybe I'm just different. I may be the only one that have had some messes in my life where some things have kind of fell apart and broken apart. And then after that, all right, okay, thank you. Thank you, Net. Thank you. I think that is Net. After where everything falls apart, then we've got to start the building process, okay? So when you begin to start rebuilding that situation that have fallen apart, now it's time for the building, the rebuilding, okay? In order for it to come back together, guess what? If you want, and I'm just going to say, if you want the relationship to come back together, whatever type of relationship it may be, and it may just be us, we've got to start the rebuilding process. And it may be, like I said, make it personal. When you have fallen apart, when you have had I'm not going to say a breakdown, and I was talking I'm getting ready to go on a rabbit trail. So we were discussing at work about when a person has a mental health crisis, because you all know that's the work that I do. That's what I deal with. But when a person has a mental health crisis, the old term is that they had a breakdown. Oh no, we may say so-and-so had a breakdown, or a child, maybe they had a breakdown or whatever. But that's a term that was used, I think, back in the day. Now we say they're having maybe like a crisis, or they're having, a mental health concern or a mental health crisis. But back in the day, they will say they had a breakdown, or they had, and for some of you all may know some other words that they used to call it. But even when it's personal and you have maybe had a breakdown, well, now it's time for the rebuilding. It's time for you to begin rebuilding yourself, or if we go back and we talk about a relationship, now it's time to start rebuilding that relationship. And then as you are starting to rebuild that relationship, now it's becoming back what you wanted it to be. And the term becoming, another rabbit trail, Michelle Obama has an excellent book called Becoming. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. It's a great read. But when you start walking different, when you start doing things different, when you start, like I said, that building process, and you begin to notice that you're beginning to kind of get yourself back together. You're beginning to kind of come back to the place where you want to be. That's the becoming. You're becoming either who you want to be as an individual, or if you're talking about a relationship again, that relationship is becoming what you need it to be, okay, or what you desire it to be. And then, of course, after you have that becoming phase, then we have, I like to call it the blessing phase, okay? It's where whatever has gone down, we've had some breakups, we've had to shake some things up in order to straighten it out. We've had the building process, we've went through the becoming process, and now we're at the blessing process. Now, I know I talked about all of these things in a matter of minutes. Don't fool yourself. It's not going to happen in a matter of minutes. It may take months, it may take years for all of these 4 phases of the mess to become greatness to happen. Now, let's just pray it doesn't take that long. Let's pray that you're able to go through these phases. And if somebody can put those in there, I know a lot of times Boris or Net will put in what I stated. But the 4 B's is the breaking, the building, the becoming, and the blessing. So if somebody can put that in the chat for me, that would be very helpful for my people that are going to watch the replay, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, for you all to be able to reference that. So in that blessing phase, that's when you realize that the crushing, that the breaking, now you are where, in the Bible, it talks about when the oil begins to flow, or the oil that comes from being crushed. Jacqueline Carr has a song, and in the song, she starts out talking about the olive has to go through the crushing process in order for the oil to flow. Well, guess what? We have to go through a process too. And especially if we're trying to get to the other side, to the greatness side, you all, and speaking of oil, you all, the oil is good. The oil is good. So sometimes in the crushing process, that's when the oil will begin to flow. And so when you get to that blessing place, remember, it's not going to happen overnight. But when you get back to that phase, then what you need to do is you need to take the time. Now it's time to do some more work. And you need to start reflecting on that whole process. What happened? How did you get from the breaking to the blessing? And, the stages that went through it, how did you get there? What did it feel like? Okay? Because, see, a lot of times what happens is when we begin to go through some things, we forget that when it happens again, how God brought us from point A to point B. And I say we forget that because then when it starts to happen again, we all but want to throw up our hands and say, I don't want to do this anymore. Remember, like I said, you cannot, some people, including me, don't necessarily want to go through the breaking. They don't want to go through the becoming. They don't want to go through those phases. They just want to get to the blessing, okay? And sometimes what we have to understand is that as we begin to reflect on how, if he did it back then, he can do it now. You know, I can probably reference so many different songs about if he did it back then, he can do it again. Okay? What God meant for, or what the devil meant for bad, God turned it for my good. All different types of songs that you can probably reference. But if he did it back then, if he brought me from the breaking, the building, the becoming to the blessing, if he did it once, guess what? It can happen again. But let me just say this. We don't ever want to always be in a state of us reflecting and saying, oh, now this is happening again. Now this is happening again. Now this is happening again. At some point, people, you need to learn from the mistakes and the things that you have been in bondage or being bound by or that you have experienced. We should not always, and I used to hear, I think Elder Henderson saying this, and it may have been even Sister Henderson, is that we should not always be in the state where we're repenting. And I know, you know, we can repent every day. We can do whatever. But at some point, have you not learned the lesson? Have you not learned what is going on that causes you to get into these situations? So in that reflection, I need you all to understand that you're going to be declaring some things in your life, okay? You've went through the reflection phase. You've went through the interaction phase. Now you need to declare some things in your life. And I need you to declare that every place that you have been broken, those are going to become now the places where you're blessed. Okay. So you can declare that. And a lot of times, you know, people will say your mess is your message. Your mess is your ministry. People say that your tears are watering the seeds for tomorrow's testimony. You know, that was a new one, but, and that you're not done, you're in development. You're not done, you're in the process of becoming. And all of that is true, but you've got to encourage yourself and you've got to declare some things over your life that, hey, you're not always going to stay in that state. And not only are you going to declare it, but you're going to start living and walking in that thing that you are declaring. Okay. And so, and as you're walking and you are declaring those things, then what will begin to happen is that you will begin to recognize again, like I said, when those things begin to come up on you again, and you can recognize it and say, hey, I've been down this road before. So I recognize it and I know that first of all, God will bring me through it. But I also have learned some strategies of how not to even get to that point. Okay. You're going to be able to learn to do some things that's going to cause you not to have to go through the breaking and the building and all of those things. You're going to be able to go from that straight to the blessing. Okay. And some people may say, well, that's kind of hard and difficult to do. Yes, it is. But once you've experienced a thing before, hopefully you begin to recognize what it looks like. You begin to be able to recognize that thing and to be able to know that I don't have to go down all of those different things in order for me to come out on the blessing side. So, talked a whole lot. I just kind of was like Speedy Gonzalez trying to make sure I was able to share all of these things. But what I will tell you is that in our life, life, I said, is lifing on Monday morning. And I said, when life is lifing, you all, a lot of times when you hear people saying that, that means that there is some things that's going on that may be kind of out of the ordinary. There may be some things that are happening that may kind of have you a little bit off schedule, that's not allowing you to be able to move in the way that you want to move or that you are accustomed to moving. It just means that there is some things going on in your life that have you a little bit off schedule. So when you hear people say life is lifing, that's exactly what that means. So if life has been lifing for you, then what I need you to do is make it up in your mind that you're going to take inventory of the things that may not be going according to the way that you want it to go. It could be, the great messes in your life, because that's what we're talking about, from a great mess to greatness. And let me just tell you where I got this from. I was listening to Pastor Osteen, and that's my channel. That's typically when you get in my car, you're going to find it's going to be on Pastor Joel Osteen 24/7. And so I don't hardly ever turn from that, because I realize that I need words of encouragement. I need to make sure that I'm feeding my soul with good and positive things. So when life is lifing and the great messes come in our life, then I know how to deal with it. Of course, I read my Bible. Of course, I know that there are other ways that I can get my soul fed. But while I'm in the car, okay, while I'm in the car, that's typically what I'm listening to. And so Pastor Osteen was talking about, that on last week, about, the great messes, and how the great messes are turned into the greatness in our lives. So that's where that came from. But what I was about to share, or what I was sharing with you all, is that start writing down the things that you are going through, the great messes that are in your life, or the messes. They don't have to necessarily be great, but the things that you want to see turn around, the things that you want to resolve. There may have been some prayer requests that you have been praying about for quite some time, and those things have not come to pass. Write those things down, put it down in a journal. And I haven't did a shameless plug for my journals in quite some time. But if you need a good journal, contact me. I have some. There, you can find them on Amazon, or you can contact me directly. But write the things down in your journal. And as you are writing the things down in your journal, write a little bit about the mess. Write a little bit about exactly what's going on. And not only write about that, but then start being strategic and start writing some strategies or some ways that you feel like that you can resolve those things. Because remember, after the breaking, you got to start the rebuilding process. So how do you start the rebuilding process? What are the things that you need to do? Write it down. The Bible tells us to write the things down, write it on tablets, write it in our journals so men can see them and run with the vision, okay? And I know I quoted that all kind of backwards, but you get my point. A lot of times when we write things down and we're able to come back to it, especially if you're using a journal, you're able to look back at when you have come out of a thing, how you were able to do that, and then also the things and the feelings that you were going through when that situation was happening. But not only that, as you're writing the things down, pray over the stuff that you've written down. Make sure that you're writing it down, but pray over it. Okay, pray over what you are going through, and then call the things forward. Remember, I said you've got to start the reflection and then the declaration. The declaration part of it is calling the things forward the way that you want them to turn out, the end, the greatness part of it, okay? And if you do that, I am sure that not only will you be able to turn the great messes in your life into the great things in your life, but even if you need some additional support, guess what? You all know I have all these digital projects, and I have lots of different things for encouragement. If you're listening to this on tonight, whether it's on a replay for Facebook or YouTube, or even it doesn't necessarily tonight, but if you would like a copy of a list of encouraging strategies, I have them available for you. And guess what? All you have to do is ask. If you send me if you message me, or if you put a comment in the comment section, ask for the list of encouragements, okay? And I will send you, I think it's 30 different encouragement whatever. And I will gladly send that to you, because as we are helpers one to another, listen, it does me no good if I have all of these resources and all of these things that I know that could be a help to you and for you, and if I just hold on to it and just sit on it and not share it. So listen, everybody, I hope that this has been encouraging to you. I hope that I said something that is going to be helpful for you. And I just want to end it by saying, Lord, turn every mess into a miracle. Turn every mess into a message. Turn every mess into greatness. And sometimes, God, you have to use our broken pieces for your glory. But that's what it's all about, okay? So thank you all so very much on tonight. And as I often do, as I am leaving out and I am logging off, we like to close it out by saying, thank you, grandstanders, as my sister Cynthia would say. Thank you, grandstanders, for listening on tonight. And we look forward to seeing you all on next week. I hope everybody have a great week. And again, don't forget, if you need the 30, I think it's 30 encouragement strategies or whatever, leave me a comment down in the comment section below. If you are friends with me on Facebook, inbox me, message me, let me know. If you are not a follower on Facebook and all the other stuff, if you're not a subscriber, I would ask that you would please consider becoming a subscriber, because I have lots of good things that's going on over here. Turn on your notification bell so you will not miss a update. Okay? Everybody have a good night. Bye-bye.